Well, folks, the wait is over. It's game day. This is episode 3. Welcome to Gmail. In this video, we'll review everything you need to get started. This video is a bit longer than my previous tutorials, so you may want to watch certain sections first and return to the others at a later time. I'll leave notes in the YouTube video description as to when each of these topics is covered, so to make it easier for you to jump from topic to topic. First, we'll review the basic functions of Gmail, like composing and responding to emails. This section is geared towards beginners who are new to Gmail. Second, we'll go over inbox setup and the options you have for the look and feel of your inbox. These options are somewhat different from Outlook, so if you've opened Gmail and are uncomfortable with the way things are, start with this section. Next, we'll review the spam folder and how to teach Google to sort what is junk and what is important. Lastly, I'll go over some other options for organization and workflow. Okay, in Gmail, we're going to go over the basics. First, how to start an email. Here's the compose button here in the left-hand side. When I click on it, a small window appears for a new message. If you want to expand it, you can use the expand button and then also shrink it. It's also going to give you some really great tips as you go through Gmail. It's always good to look at the tips that they give you. I'll just click OK, got it. If I want to keep a large screen every time I open a new message, I can come down here to the 3 dots and set default to full screen. That way, every time I open it, I'll get this nice big screen. Here's my to field, and let's write a message to Christy Green. Here's the subject. If I need BCC or CC, I can click those on. They're over here once I do the to field. And then down here is where I would do the body of my email. Down at the bottom, I have different buttons that I can use to help me format. First is the formatting option for text. I can pick the text style, the text size, bold, italics, underline, color of the text. All of these tools that you're pretty familiar with from using other tools. Undo and redo is here as well. Okay, so hello. The next one is attach files. So these would be files like PDFs or things that are saved to your computer if you're using your laptop. We'll get to Google Docs in just a moment. Insert a link if I want to go to Google. That's what I want it to say, but I want it to go to www.google.com. And I click OK. If I'm going to an email address, I can do that if I'm sharing somebody's email address. When I click that, there's my link. Emojis are next. You can insert an emoji. But here's what's really cool is there's the Drive button. When I click on the Google Drive button, it's going to go to my Google Drive. If I want to share a file that I already have in my Google Drive, if I have it in the shared with me, recents, or I can upload something if I need to. But I have one right here that I'm going to use, and I'm going to use it as a link to Drive. So watch when I click this button. Insert. When I click insert, it's going to insert this. There's my Google Doc that I want Christy Green to read. Okay. The next button is the insert photo button. When I click on that, it does pull photos from Google Photos. If you don't use Google Photos, you'll have to select files that are from your device. But it's very easy to copy and paste images that you find on the internet and resize them. It also gives you best fit small, things like that. Okay. After that is confidential mode. You can turn on confidential mode, meaning that the person who receives this email can't forward, copy, print, or download the email, and an expiration date for how long you want it to be confidential. You can also add a password to it. I would be careful with this, knowing that anything that you send digitally can obviously, a screenshot can be taken. They can use their phone to take a picture of it. So just use this wisely. And the next one is insert signature. So if you have signatures set, you can decide which signature you want to use while you're composing the email if you have more than one signature. We're going to get to signatures in part 2 of this video. Okay, also down here are these three dots I went to earlier to default to full screen. But what's nice is if you decide to use labels, which remember are like folders, you can assign a label to this message before I even send it. So I'm going to type meetings, meetings, and since I don't have, oops, since I don't have one called meetings yet, let's try that again. I'm going to create a new label called meetings. And I'm just doing create. I don't want to nest it under another label. I'm just going to create that label. And now I send this and it's already going to have a label attached. Another option under here is plain text mode. If you find that you're sending Gmail to people and they say it continues to go to spam, for that sender, you might want to pick plain text mode, as sometimes keeps messages from going to spam for your receivers. You can print this message, you can check your spelling, and Smart Compose feedback. If you feel that Smart Compose is not working well, you can give Google a heads up by going to here. Lastly, any email that you start composing, if you exit out of it because you decide you don't want to send it, it will automatically save to your drafts folder. They can build up after a while. If you don't care, you can just close out this way. But they do offer you a trash can if you want to discard the draft, meaning that this email will disappear and be deleted forever if you don't want to send it. But I'm going to send in a moment because I want to show you a couple options. So down here, I can go to send, but if I use this button next to it, I can schedule a send. So if I'm writing an email over the weekend and I want to send it, make sure it gets to somebody on Monday rather than during the weekend, I can pick one that they suggest or pick my own date and time just by clicking on it and then putting in the time that I want. And then I would do schedule the send. I'm going to cancel that for now because I'm going to show you what happens when I just send this email. This is really great. Remember that I inserted the Google Doc that I'm going to send to Christy Green. When I click the send button, it already knows that Christy Green does not have access to that file yet. I haven't shared it with Christy Green. I just put it into my email. And this happens all the time, right? We send an email in Outlook. Somebody writes back, I need access to it. Right now it's alerting me Christy does not have access. I can share it with just her and just figure out what kind. Do I want her to have edit rights or view rights? I'm going to say edit. Or I can turn link on for sharing. So that would be the other option. Rather than just giving it to Christy, I can give it to more than one people. And then I can send it. So it's a nice little reminder before I send. So I'll click send. So I just sent that message and I have a pop-up down here saying message sent, and there's the undo button. I have set this to have 20 seconds for me to undo it. Right now it's a 5-second default. I'll show you how to change that so you have up to 30 seconds to unsend a message. So my option just went away because my 20 seconds were up, but I wanted to send it anyway, so I'm going to click on the X. I'm all finished with that. Okay. Next up is responding to a message. So here I have some messages in my inbox. I'm going to pick one that I want to reply to. So here's one here. And when I double click, it will open up. It's telling me who it's from. And right here is my reply button. When I click reply, it gives me a chance to write a response with the same text box as composing. I'm going to click on that discard draft because I don't want that. But there's also these 3 buttons here to the side for more. You'd have the option to reply all if applicable. You can forward the message. Filtering messages, I can show you about it in another future video. Print the message, lots of different things. I can block this sender. This is where I could report spam or phishing. So there's lots of options here you might want to look at. Last is mark as unread if you want to save the reading of the message until later. Okay, so for inbox setup and configurations, if you're looking at your Gmail inbox and saying, what is this? I don't like the way this is set up. We're going to get into kind of different options you have for the way it looks, the way it feels. So by default, Google creates 3 sub inboxes, and they're up here at the top. There's primary, which is for communication messages between 2 senders or a group of senders. There's social, which Google recognizes as messages from social networks like Twitter. And then promotions, which would be messages that come from companies or corporations. I find these categories are helpful for my personal Gmail account, but not for my work account. So let's look at some of the options. First of all, Google is being helpful again and giving me some tips on how to get started with Gmail. It's fine to go through these if you're ready to. I'm going to cover a lot of this in this video or upcoming video. So for now, I'm going to click on the X, dismiss this so that I can just see my inbox. So an important button in Gmail is the settings button up here in the corner. And when I click it, it's going to give me some quick settings first, which are usually the most often used. So the first group is density, and there's the default. There's comfortable, which is a little bit of space in between, and then compact, where the messages are all together. This is just the way it looks. I'm leaving it as the default. That's what I really prefer. Next is the theme, and it can, I'm going to go to view all. What's really nice is you can pick some pictures they have themselves, solid colors, designs, and you can even go to my photos and pick a photo that you like. The background will go on the back, but not, if you can see over here, not on top of my text. It's more transparent so that it doesn't bother my text. I'm going to go back to the default. And then whatever you pick, you're going to make sure that you click save. Okay, back to settings. That was theme. When I come down here, the next one is inbox type. So remember I said that your primary, social, and promotions sub inboxes are part of the default. These are the other options that you have. And it's really important to make sure that you play with these a little bit. The more you start to use Gmail, the more you may realize that a different inbox type will help you be more productive. For me, and I think for this tutorial, we're going to go with the unread first. It's the most simple and straightforward. As I said, you can always go back and change depending on your Gmail usage, change the inbox type you use. But for us, I'm going to go with unread first. That puts the messages, and you can see it already changed. The messages that I have not read are at the top, and the messages that I have read already are kind of grayed out and here at the bottom. We'll get more into how to clean this up or make this work better for you as well. Okay, the next thing I have down here at the bottom is the reading pane. For a straight list of messages, I do no split, or I can split them to see a preview of what my messages are on the right or below the inbox. The last option I have is email threading. And here it is checked that it is conversation view. What's interesting is this is also an option in Outlook, and I found a lot of teachers prefer to turn conversation view off. So if I go back here over to my inbox, I have a message here that says Christy, and then there's a number 3 next to it. This is a conversation thread where all 3 messages where we've responded back and forth to each other are nestled together into this thread. Some people like to keep the thread on. If I click the button off, it's going to tell me to reload Gmail. And once I reload it, I'm going to see that those messages have now split apart into their own messages. So here's where I replied back to that meeting, our meeting, and here's the response that Christy sent back to me. So it just splits that thread apart. Let's go back here. And I think that was the last one. So I'm going to leave conversation view off. So that was the quick settings, but I definitely want to see all settings. There are a lot of different settings in Gmail inbox that you're going to want to go through at some point. So see all settings. There are so many settings. There's so many categories for settings. It does take a little bit of time to go through it. I'm going to go through the most important ones, or at least the ones that I find most important. The first one I'm going to come to is the maximum page size. It shows 50 conversations per page. You can make that more or less. If you went into Gmail and you have hundreds or maybe even thousands of messages in your inbox, you might want to change this to 100 for right now so that it helps you manage all of those messages a little bit more quickly. The next one is undo send. Remember, I had that little message down at the bottom asking me if I wanted to undo the sent message and cancel the send. It's defaulted to 5 seconds, which is not a lot of time. The 20 and 30 are also available. I like to keep it at 20 just so that I have time to really think before I press that undo. Next one I'll come to is the default text style. I showed you in composing, you can pick what kind of font style you want in your message. You can set a default so that every email is the same font style, no matter when you write it. So if you really like Tahoma, you can pick Tahoma, the font size, the color even. So if I do this, it's going to show me what my text looks like right down here at the bottom. The next setting I'm coming to is Smart Compose. You either love it or you hate it. Me, I'm a fan. It's the predictive writing suggestions that they magically appear as you're typing. If you don't like it, you'll want to turn it off. Okay, I've scrolled down a bit to my picture. You can choose a picture that will be attached to when you use Google products. Right now I have the letter C, but changing my picture, if I select here, it'll allow me to upload a picture. It is going to attach to everything I use for Google. So that would be Google Classroom and Google Docs and Gmail. So that would include all of your colleagues, parents, and students would be able to see that picture. Last, when I come down a little bit further, I see signature. And there are no signatures now. If I click create new, I'm going to give it a name. So you can create several different email signatures depending on who you're sending emails to, whether they're within district or out district, or however you'd like to set them. I'm going to set one called primary. And once I give it a name, I can come over here. I believe you have 10,000 characters available to you for a signature. So I'm just going to start with my name. Yes. And you can obviously make any kind of adjustments you want. You can also include a picture. And I'm going to make my picture is very large right now. I'm going to go down to small so that it's right there with my name. I copied and pasted that from Google Images. Again, you can use this to get images or pictures that you have saved. So one of the things that's important is I can select when these signatures are used rather than just use the signature button in every email. For new emails, I want it to use my primary signature, which is the one I just created. Anytime I reply or forward, I'm going to put no signature because I'm going to write my own thing. But you could make a second signature if you wanted that maybe just had your name rather than all of your contact information for reply and forward. The last thing you're going to want to do anytime you come to settings and you make something, a change of some kind, you're going to want to go down to save changes so that the changes are set. And then it dumps you right back to your inbox. So one thing that may happen with the new Gmail rollout is that some of the emails that you receive from outside the district, whether that be parents or other contacts, may accidentally be put into spam. But it's really easy to kind of coach Gmail into knowing what is spam and junk and what are important emails that you want in your inbox. So you do in the beginning of using Gmail want to check your spam folder regularly. So if I come over here to my list of folders, or labels. Sometimes they're just labels. I'm going to use the more button here. And then it gives me the ability to scroll more and I see that I have a spam folder. When I click on spam, it's going to show me the different messages that I have. And it tells me that messages that have been there for more than 30 days are automatically going to be deleted. If I feel like they are all spam, I just click that and they all disappear. But let's say this is a message I want to keep. It's actually not spam. So I'm going to click on that button and I get some options at the top. And I can click not spam. I want this in my inbox, or delete forever. And then here are your other options that mark as read and other things that you can do with that message. But I'm going to do not spam. And then it has moved it back to my inbox. So now I have that right in my inbox there. So conversely, if I have a message that is spam that's in my inbox, I can select that message and then come up to the report spam button and it will make it go to my spam folder. If I've made a mistake, I can come over here and click undo and it pops right back into my inbox. The more you mark messages as spam or unmark them as spam so they come back to your inbox, the more Gmail will start to learn which messages are important for you and which are junk. So here's where we get our inbox organized. First, if you have hundreds or thousands of emails in your inbox, don't panic. The read and unread messages from Outlook's inbox are now in your Gmail inbox. And here are a few things you can do to get organized. First, you can just delete messages. If you have really old messages in your inbox, you can sort to see the oldest messages first. So right here, I have my everything else section. These are all messages that I've read. So, right now, somebody I have one of five, but maybe you have one of five of 700. If I click on this, it's going to show me just those messages. And I'm going to be able to click here again and do newest to oldest. Now, since I only have one page of messages, I don't have that many. But if you put oldest first, then you can just come and use the select button to select all of the very, very old messages and just delete if that's what you wanted to do. You can do the same thing for your unread messages, which were at the top of my page. If you feel that messages from 2014 that were unread are still not important, you can do oldest at the top by clicking on oldest, select all, and then use the delete button to delete that many messages that you've selected. I just use my back arrow button to get back to my unread messages at the top and my everything else at the bottom. So maybe deleting is not what you want to do, but you want to save them, but not just down here. So this everything else can kind of get junked up. You want to have a space to put them away. One way to do that is to archive messages. Now, archiving just makes sure the messages don't get deleted. They're saved forever, and they're very easy to search for. So what I would do is if I take this message, this is from Join Milk Street, and say that's one message that I know I want to save. I don't want to delete it, but I really don't know what I want to do with it because maybe it's quite old. I'm not sure I want to make a label for it because it's just something I might need maybe in the future. For me, my option is I'm going to click select and then come up to this archive button. When I archive it, it just saves it. I can always undo that. Now, the problem is I don't have a label or folder area over here for archive. So if I want to search for something that I've archived, I have to remember some kind of search term, either the sender's name or a word. So I'm going to type in milk, and when I press enter, it comes up with just that message. This is from my archived folder. To get back, I'm just going to use my back button, but that's how archive works. So the drawback is there's no archive section here, but you can always search for messages that you've archived. If you have some kind of memory of what the message was or when it came, you can always search your mail here. This is a very powerful search. Just like in your Google Drive, just like in regular google.com. It is very easy to use and much more user-friendly than Outlook search ever was. So maybe you don't like the idea of archiving messages because you don't have a spot over here on the side to be able to go and see all those messages that you've archived. But you do want a place to just hold those messages so that if you want to look at them all, you can. Maybe browse through them at a later date. Easy enough. You can select as many messages as you want. So maybe I want all three of these messages. Remember, you can use this button up here to select all the messages you see. You can also use the little arrow to pick just the unread messages, just the read messages. Let's do my read messages here. I'm going to save these in a new way. Another way is just making a label. So just like you may have had a saved folder, maybe for the 1920 school year, you made a saved 1920. I'm going to go up here to labels. Labels act just like folders. And I'm going to create a new label. And I'm going to call it saved 2122 and create. Okay, so now all of those have the label here. And if I need to see them, I can go right over here. And that's all I have when I click on that label. And if I use my back button, if I don't want to see these anymore, because these are the messages that I just put the label on. And as you can see, this grayed out section shows me the name of the label that they have. And this message actually has two labels, one called meetings and one called saved. Now, if I don't want to see these anymore, I can simply use this little arrow to hide it all. That's quick. Or I can now, since they have labels, select them all and archive them. And now they're gone, but they're also under this label. So when I click this, it still shows me those saved. So it's easy to get to as well. So there's a few more ways to use your inbox for productivity. One of the ways is I just made this label saved. I can use those three dots and I can pick a label color to make them pop out a little bit more. I can, edit my label here, remove it, add a sub-label, and then over here is the label list if I want to show if unread. In the message list, I can hide or show those messages, but let's take a look at what happens when I put a label color on them. They start to pop out that way, and also the label colors over here. Another way to organize messages, some people use their inbox kind of as a to-do list. Maybe they read a message, but know they want to come back to it so that they actually take care of the task that's attached to that message. You can add a star to any of the messages that you like, even if it's a label or not a label message. And then no matter what you do with those messages, if you leave them in your inbox, if you add a label, you can come over here to this side panel and click starred and then only see those messages. And then of course, just like when you add a star to a Google Doc or a folder, you can unstar them if you want, and they return back to the place where they were before. Another thing to do is you can add an importance flag here. You can click on important, and I could undo it if I did it by mistake. And then that is under more, and I can find all of my important tags. And again, your important tags will just show up this way. I believe stars, let's go back to stars. Oh, in settings, remember on the wheel, you can change the color of stars if you don't like the yellow, if you want it to stand out next to the important. I really hope that you found all or some of the sections of this video helpful. If there's anything that I can do to make your experience with Gmail more pleasant or more organized, please feel free to reach out to me, Christy Green, Tech Coach for Medford Township Schools.